This podcast is recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, who were our first teachers and storytellers. I extend my respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Welcome to the Habit Nerd podcast. I'm Dr. Bree Hearn, and if you're interested in habits, those tiny, powerful behaviours that shape who we are and what we achieve, you've absolutely landed in the right place. Join me each week as I interview a wide range of experts, dive into evidence-based strategies, and give you practical tools to help you build habits that stick and break the ones that hold you back. Hi there, Habit Nerds. Welcome to today's episode of the Habit Nerd podcast. I am so excited to introduce our guest today. Her name is Gemma Mitchell. Now, Gemma is the author of The Money Reset. She's a finance coach and she's a podcaster with over 20 years experience helping people take control of their financial futures. Gemma draws on both professional expertise and her lived experience as a mum and an entrepreneur, and she supports individuals and businesses to build resilient, values-aligned money habits that stand up to life's inevitable changes. I just told Gemma off mic I have done a deep dive into the Money Reset and recently discovered all of her work and her podcast. I'm gaining a huge amount in these shaky financial times that we find ourselves in, and I know that you as my listeners will as well. So a big thanks, Gemma, and a warm welcome to the Habit Nerd podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. And that was a really good wrap. I think I'm going to steal that for my when I introduce myself. That was impressive.
Oh, fantastic. Happy to send it over. Gemma, the first question that I always start with is what's a habit that you have that has a positive spillover effect into other areas of your life?
Yes, so this is one that I'm constantly working on, like heaps of areas of my life. I think habits are so important. But I have a very busy brain. I think I'm undiagnosed ADHD, but I have a very busy brain, and my brain goes on loop. It almost gets obsessive about things. And so I've realized in the last couple of years, and I was always a list person. I always had a list and wrote things down, but I've actually realized that it's more than just an organizational thing. It's a quiet my brain thing. So journaling for me, my friends were like, "You've got a journal?" I was like, "Nah, that's not me. I'm like a spreadsheet person." But when I think about it, my spreadsheets are me writing things down and getting them out of my brain, whether it's my finances, like my organization. So I started journaling. I've always been a list person, but now I just keep notepads everywhere. And as soon as I write something down, it might be to-do list, an idea from work, it might be something that I'm thinking about creating in a podcast, or just thoughts and feelings. As soon as I write them down, they're gone. And that I can come back to them, but my brain just goes quiet. And it is a superpower for me that I have that outlet, and I've learnt what it is. So I have a whiteboard in my shower. I have a notepad on the front seat of my car. There's notepads everywhere in my house and whiteboards. But yeah, I have a busy brain, and if I don't write stuff down, it just goes on loop, and it's really repetitive, and it throws my whole ability to function out. So I don't know what mental health condition that is, but I have a solution for it, and it works very well for me. So writing stuff down is my habit that I have to do.
I love it. I don't think it's a mental health condition at all. I think it's just modern day overwhelm and the busyness of being multifunctional and multi-passionate and a busy working parent. I find the whiteboard in the shower hilarious, although very sensible, because I bet listeners will be able to name many, many times, certainly true of me, that the idea that comes to you in the shower is the biggest download and the biggest gold nugget of the whole day. And I remember reading, this was years ago now, it's really stuck, that in labs in Germany, they actually have showers set up. And so the innovators go and have a shower when they're feeling stuck for ideas. It literally releases their ideas. And I mean, this was years ago. So I wonder whether they have upgraded now outside of the pen and paper, outside of on the bathroom bench, to a whiteboard or something where you can capture it straight away. Because I know that for me is by the time I've washed my hair and wash my face, then I think, what was that again? So the immediacy of that, I love that.
Yeah, yeah, it's really hard. I'll either forget or I'll just keep thinking about it, and then I can't remember if I've shampooed or conditioned, or what stage I'm up to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, whiteboard in the shower. And because I am a tight ass, I don't like spending money. My
Hmm.
whiteboard is, I've got a laminator and I laminate lists. I love a checklist. The kids have got their checklist, so I've got a laminator. So it's literally just a white piece of paper laminated with like a marker. That's it. So it's not like a
How does
fancy
it
whiteboard. It's not huge. It's
uh
just an A4 piece of paper that's laminated, and that's what I use.
how does it stay stuck onto the glass?
So it stays on, it's on the tiles, but it's just on double-sided tape. And I
Oh,
take it off.
hilarious.
So like sometimes it'll be, oh, I
To
need to
wash
buy
it.
this stuff for the bathroom. And so I'll take it, put it on the bench, and then it just sticks back. It's like
Oh,
it's
Gemma.
a life changer.
It's a master stroke and it is hilarious in the same breath. I absolutely love it. My last question about that, because I think there's so much as we're laughing, there's so much sense to what you've just said. Do you have trouble finding where you've written down something? If you've got so many different notepads and journals, notebooks, your whiteboards, is that a problem, or is that something that you know it's somewhere, so you'll just be able to find, eventually, process of elimination, you'll get there?
So I don't have things like notes and things laying around because as
Hmm.
soon as I've had to write them down, they then do something. So for example, if I'm at kids drop off, I'm waiting for the kids to come out, they're dawdling, I might make some notes.
Mm,
Or I'll, be running into Coles and I'll stop and I'll make some notes. I listen to
mm,
podcasts as well when I'm driving and I'm like, oh, I've got to
hmm.
write that down. I'm like, this is
Yeah,
very
same.
dangerous.
Mm.
But I'll always take that, I'll just rip that sheet off and bring it straight in and then it goes into something. So it goes into one of my, like for all my social media, I'm trying to show up a lot more on social media. So I have a spreadsheet, like a Google Doc, and it's idea, if it came from somebody else, like inspiration reel, it's got their link. So I get my notes, but then I always do something with them. If it was stuff
I
for
love
Coles,
that.
it goes straight into the app. So usually each day I've got a piece of paper of messy notes, but I don't let them run over a few days, if that makes sense.
I
So it's just
like
to
it.
get it
Yeah.
off my brain, but I will action it that day. I might put a reminder in my diary. I might put it on one of my spreadsheets, but there's not just a pile of notes. That would stress me out even more. I'd have notes to
Yeah.
tidy up the notes.
I'm so glad I asked that question, and I'm so glad you told us that there's almost a part two to the note taking. So each
Yeah, there
note
is.
has a
So
job
I get it
after
out of
you've
my
taken the
brain
note.
and then I put it somewhere. And so I just gave the example of like the social media thing. So it might be an idea for a blog. It might be an idea that I want to put on a podcast. So I'll put them on if it's a podcast, if it's a blog, if it's a post. But I might come back to it in a couple of weeks and go, oh, that was a terrible idea. What were you thinking?
Mm,
And then I'll take it off
mm.
there. But if I don't write it down, regardless if it's good or bad, my brain will just loop and loop and loop and think about it. So I'll pop it down and then I can come back to it later.
I love it. And there's something to be said for writing it down doesn't make it good. It doesn't mean
That's
that it's
exactly right.
going to be used, but it's out of your brain. And then you can make that decision when you've got more time and energy later on
Yes.
down the track. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like journaling, right? You're putting it all down there, regardless if it's useful or not. But I find this like with the writing the book and when I do blogs and things, I find if I just write it, like if I'm in the mood to write for the book or a blog, I'll write it. And then when I come back to editing, that's where I can go, oh, that was rubbish, or get rid of that bit. But
Mm.
when you're in the mood, you just let it all flow. And it doesn't have to be good or perfect. That's that. So the creativity and then the editing process are very different personalities.
Oh, I love that. And that just empowers people so much because that anxiety of the blank page and needing to make it good and where done
Yes.
is better than perfect, get it out. I've
Hmm.
come across this in so many different contexts with different experts in this sort of work, but Sally Hepworth, who's an author you might know, she talks about the nifty 350. Just get 350 words down, can be 350 words of garbage, because then when you go back to it, it probably will be 50 words of gold.
Yeah.
But as you say, it's not clogging up your brain and stressing you out and then making you worry about remembering that while you're, in Coles or school pickup or whatever. So, yeah, thank you, Gemma.
Yeah.
They're amazing. What about, is there a habit that you are trying to overcome at the moment?
I would say there's lots. So I have some pretty, I It's actually so I have a personal trainer. So my journey with my health and my fitness, it's always been a low priority, and then it's an
Right.
obsession, and then I let it drop. It's one thing that I haven't ever
Interesting.
been able to create a healthy routine around.
Right.
And I've got a personal trainer that I've been seeing, and she read the book and she was just like, what is wrong with you, Gemma? You know exactly all of the things, like the how you talk about money is exactly what you need to apply to your fitness. It's all the same things.
Oh,
It's clarity on your goal. She's like,
interesting.
why can't you stick to your fitness when you're so clear on all the habits in your book? And she's like, it's exactly the same. So that was an eye opener for me because I am
Yeah.
so good with my finances and habits and helping people build routine, but I never really thought about those skills that I have here in other aspects of my life. So
Mm.
what I'm working on definitely is my fitness and health and just prioritizing it, not going, but I'm too busy and yeah, everything else gets prioritized over that. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is I am always, um, I'm very pragmatic. And so I
Mm.
find it very hard to listen without problem solving. And
Interesting.
lots of times people don't want you, they don't need you to problem solve. Yes, my clients do, and that's the purpose of it. But my friends don't always.
Mm.
And it puts so much like mental load on me as well when it didn't need to. That's not what they wanted from me. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is just chill out with problem solving when it's not my problem or they're not my clients. And so a saying that I've got is this a listening conversation or a problem solving? And so I say that to my friends at the start, and they're like, just chill, you just got to listen. I'm like, cool.
Oh, I
Because
love that.
I take over and I don't need to. It only just puts more pressure on me. A lot of the time people just want you to listen, and I would have a lot less on my plate if I didn't take on other people's problems when they don't necessarily want me to.
Oh, Gemma, that is, my goodness, you have called me out on that second one big time. Let's just talk about the first one though. So, really, I mean, what a great personal trainer to have read your book and be able to kind of think of you outside of the, squats and shoulder presses and think, actually, Gemma's mindset around money could be really helpful here for her relationship with exercise. And I think that's such a great sort of flip that you've been able to think of something where you may have had low self-esteem. So, for example, my inability to stick to an exercise routine or to place importance on it, and realize that actually you do have a skill set that would be really helpful. And you've proven that, and you've, been very successful in that in a completely different realm. And so
Mhm.
I think that's a really good reminder for all of us that we can transfer that kind of positive self esteem and the proof points that we've got to something that we're working on. And it's kind of that idea that how you do some things can be how you do everything. And I think that's so powerful. And the second one, I just want to, as I say, I had a conversation with my sister. We were away for the weekend, and her and that my daughters and her were ganging up on me, which is pretty standard practice, but basically saying that, oh, when mum wants to teach you something, she'll just go on and on about it until she feels like you've got the message. And I was trying to say to them, oh, I know I do that. It genuinely is because I just want the best for everybody around me.
Mhm.
And I have to remember that it's coming from a place of kindness. But exactly what you just said, more often than not, that's not even what's required. And it is
Mhm.
just listening and being there. And do you know what? I was thinking about that conversation as I was driving last night. I wonder if that's one of the motivations behind me starting this podcast, because I really am so motivated in my background in education to make other people's lives better, as I'm sure yours is through finance, Gemma, that it's a personality trait that now I can formalize it and interview experts and hope that
Mhm.
I'm improving the lives of kind of people as they're driving around listening and not annoying my family and friends so much with unwarranted, unsolicited advice. So,
Unsolicited
oh,
advice, yes, that's one that I fall on as well. But I think that's a really good insight. But so maybe you're reframing. So mine is the question: is this a listening or fixing? You could be like, is this a listening or a teaching moment?
yep. Yep. And do you know what? I'll be able to turn it around to make it a teaching moment. So I almost need like a double reminder to say, no, just listening, breathe today. Yeah,
Yeah, but
love
that's
it.
so vital because we need to learn from people around us, whether we're ready to or not.
Mm.
So yes, I think that's very, very vital.
Oh, thank you, Gemma. You're very kind. I love those. I love those two habits. Now, let's talk money. You're a money
Mhm.
expert. And as I said, it is a particularly stressful time with petrol, with cost of food, with world crisis, with the share market going crazy. So, what role does having a positive and a productive relationship with our finances play in our lives? I know that's a really big question.
It is a big question, but I guess it comes down to regardless if things are feeling hectic in the world, having a good relationship with money is so important, regardless if things are going well or they're going poorly and things are a little bit scary. So
Hmm.
we always hear people say, well, money doesn't buy happiness. There's no point being the richest person in the grave or whatever those sayings are. But money literally touches every aspect of our life. So it might not having more and more and more might make you happier, but you can access healthcare, you can access safety, security. Money is fundamental to our safety and security. And so, regardless if you like money, you're a money person, or you think it's evil, you need it in your life. And it's just a fact of life. So, when things are going great, we feel safe and secure, and you have options, you have choice. So, that is the most important thing that money gives us: options and choice. So, when everything's going poorly, and it might be in a relationship or you might be single, when things are stressful, money just adds to that. So we
Mm.
want to work on our money relationship, our fundamentals, all of those kind of baseline securities, regardless if things are going well or not. We want to be working on them constantly because when things are stressful externally, even more cracks show. So if we can be really comfortable with how we manage our money, how, what our triggers are, how's our mindset around money, and then, we've got buffers and different things, it's just going to make it a little bit easier when those rough patches come up. But yeah, like I wish that I could say it didn't buy happiness, but it does. It brings safety and security, and that takes a whole lot of stress off us. And when we're not stressed, we're happier. So the knock-on effect is it affects our happiness greatly.
Yeah, I completely thank you for saying that it touches everything. And I think happiness is it's a kind of sliding scale, isn't it? But I think safety is
Yeah.
there's just so much importance there. And reading your book, Gemma, one of the main messages I took was this idea of what is my kind of sleep at night number? Like what, if something went wrong, with a relationship, a health crisis, some kind of business breakdown, whatever, what would make me be able to get to sleep at night and knowing, as you say, insurance was covered, my kids' schooling
Yeah.
was covered. So there's a real, I get it. I get don't be the richest person in the grave, but I guess the flip side of that is you can be the person with this kind of ability to take a deep breath and feel safety and security. So, Gemma, I've recently finished your excellent and very helpful book, The Money Reset. Your reset came after a divorce, and life throws us curveballs like relationships ending, like job loss or crises with, our health or a family member's health. Some might say a current financial situation with the world conflict, as I said, rising interest rates, food and fuel costs is enough to require a reset for many of us. If we are feeling that sense of breathlessness or we're having trouble sleeping at night because of money stress, what might be 2 or 3 actionable steps that we could take now in the very short term?
This is a really common one. Now, so in my book, I do refer to divorce, which was my reset, illness, sickness, all those types of things. But if we think about it, most of us need a reset at different times in our life.
Yeah.
Joining finances with a couple, retirement is the biggest reset most of us will
Mm,
face because of the way we've managed our money previously needs to change.
needs to
So it doesn't always
change.
have to be these big, devastating um, events that we need a reset. But
Mm,
I like to think of them as positive things as well. But
mm.
you're right, like right now, things are tough. We have fuel prices going out of control. Is that sound okay?
Yeah.
Is it
Yep.
way too
Fine.
loud? We have food and fuel prices out of control. So it might be that this is your motivation to do your reset. But so it might be that this is your motivation to do your reset. And what you need is clarity. So if you
Mm.
haven't looked at your finances before, where you want to start is just getting really clear on things like what you owe and what you own. So what assets do you have and what liabilities do you have? What do you spend and what do you earn? So there are four things that you need to be all over, that you need a lot of clarity over. So if you haven't done this really before, or it's been a little while and you need to do a reset, that's where I would start. And it might be as simple as getting a napkin, getting a notepad, and just starting to write it all down. It doesn't have to be this big fancy spreadsheet, but clarity on what everything is, where everything is really, really important. And if you're in a couple, making sure you're both on the same page of that. How do we manage our money? Why do we manage it this way? One of the things that I always say with couples is you can outsource the execution, but not the understanding. So usually it falls on one person in the house to pay the bills, do the boring stuff. You don't both have to do that, but you both need to be really aware of why do we have these assets? How do they work? Where are they? So yeah, you can outsource the execution, the day to day, and that might be to a financial advisor or an accountant, but you cannot outsource the understanding of your
Understanding.
situation. So if things are feeling really tough now and you're due for a reset, you just want to get really clear. And the first place to start is just what do we own? What do we owe? What do we earn? What do we spend?
Oh, they're so helpful. And I think that's really powerful that don't outsource the understanding, because I think in couples often that's where the mental load actually is. It's not where the money goes each pay. It's the understanding of why it needs to go there and how much is owed and those sorts of things. So I think the and say those for me again. What do we own and what do we owe? So
Yep,
meaning I own my
your
car. I obviously don't own the house. So what's left in the mortgage, etc.
That's right. So it might be
Mm-hmm.
your house, your car, your superannuation, because that is your money. You might
Mm-hmm.
have a little share fund that you've started, some bank accounts. So all the things you own, and then what you owe. So that might be mortgage, personal loan, credit card. You might owe money to friends or family. Pretty much everything that needs to be paid back.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're looking at what you spend and what you earn. And hopefully there's a little bit of surplus in there. For lots of us, there's not.
Mm.
Either we're spending absolutely everything, or we might even be spending a little bit more than what we've actually got coming in. And that's when you can start to go, right, what are the levers that I have? So in the book, I talk about levers. So if we look at your cash flow, which we're all kind of struggling with at the moment, what levers do you have? Is there anywhere that you can cut expenses? Or is your lever to earn more? Because
Mm.
there's only so much we can cut out of our expenses.
Yes.
All have a baseline, but when things go pear-shaped, when we need a reset, when things are tough, we go to what can we cut?
Mm.
Realistically, there is only going to be so much. So
Mm.
this is when we then flip to, well, can I earn more?
Mm.
Can you create investments that bring in more money? Could you change jobs, work more hours? And it might not be immediate. It might not be able to go, I can get a pay rise tomorrow.
Mm.
It might
Mm.
be, well, here's a 2-year plan or a 5-year plan on how I can increase my income. Not everything needs to be an immediate action, but it might
Mm.
mean that you need to start taking steps towards it.
Oh, I really love that last part of what you said, Gemma, because I think, and I agree, I think most people, are cutting where they can and have cut where they can in
Yep.
these times. Um, and I also think it's very easy to say, money, there's always an abundance of money to be earned. You could freelance, you could work more, you could increase your hours, you could change jobs. All of that comes with its own risk, doesn't it? Because
Yeah, a
it's time away
trade-off.
from your family. It's,
Hmm.
whenever you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And that, as busy people who already feel pretty stretched, isn't a particularly helpful way to think about things. So I find that so helpful that even listing some steps that you might take so that in 2 years you're ready to make a move? Could you upskill in what you're currently doing? Could you look at your LinkedIn profile and, do some training around how to make yourself more attractive to potential employers? Whatever, inward facing things that you can do whilst you're employed, or
Yeah.
whilst you're working on your own business is a step in the right direction. And I would imagine some action when you're feeling helpless is so much better than no action at all.
Yeah, it makes you feel like you're in some kind of control. So it might be a
Mm,
2 year plan, but you're doing some steps and things at the moment. Because I talk in the book, yes, these are all the ways you could earn more money. But if you're going through a reset and it's a divorce or loss of, a partner or someone, you might be at your absolute max capacity. But yes, it
capacity.
doesn't mean that you just go, right, that's on the back burner. Are there things that you could be slowly doing that you feel that the needle is moving without potentially going and adding more to your mental load?
Your plate. Yeah. And I think that what do you earn and what do you spend is empowering as well. I did that, I've done that a couple of times, and it was a reminder when I listened to your book recently that actually things change, and that even though I'd done that a couple of years ago, it actually needed a pretty significant update in my own note taking. And I looked at my bank statements for sort of the last 6 months, and there was pretty drastic differences in some of our expenses. So update it definitely, but also it was very empowering to see where the money is going. And even if there was some misalignment, even knowing about that gave me a great sense of empowerment. So yeah, I think they're really, really powerful reminders.
Yeah, things change so quickly. And, you don't need to go through your expenses and say, well, we're cutting out all of the fun.
Yeah.
Netflix is gone, gym's gone. You can go, no, that's important to us, and this is how we're going to manage it. That's
Mm,
something that we want to put in. Another thing that I get clients to do, and I talk about it in the book, is if times are really tough right now, potentially things got to go. Like
mm,
potentially you have to cut things out, but potentially a good strategy is have two budgets. One is your bare bones that you can fit in everything right now, and then do another one that, hey, if more money flows into our lives, into my life, what am I going to slowly start adding back? So it might be that you've had to get rid of the subscriptions that you actually enjoy. And, maybe you've had to go to a different gym or you're doing free internet workouts. But you might then put in another version of your budget and go, right, when I can afford to, first thing that's going back is this thing, then this, because then we don't get, a lifestyle inflation where we just start spending more
creep.
because we've got more. And then we go, where'd all that money go?
Where the
This one's
money
very
go?
intentional. So for example, in my divorce, lots of things had to go. Discretionary spending went. I had a cleaner, which was very important to me because it meant that I had more time with the kids. They
Mm,
cleaned much better than what I did. I
mm,
could work on my business and things that
mm,
generated more, but
mm,
that had to go. So
mm,
I knew that as soon as I was in a position, that was something that added a lot of value to my life, and I wanted to add it back in. So
mm.
yeah, I've got like this kind of priority list, and like these are what my values are, and when I can put them back in, I will. So maybe that's something that people should be thinking about right now. If petrol and food are eating away at some of their others, the trade-off is, well, okay, they've got to go for a while I prioritize these expenses, and then when I can, I'll add those things back in.
I love the idea that it's short term. It's far less depressing, isn't it? To
Yes.
think, you know,
And it's
that
motivational again. It's kind of like the career thing. I can't earn more money now, but what are the steps that I could be doing? At least it feels like you're moving towards something, and you know what the plan is going to be when that knock-on effect flows through.
yeah. And I completely resonate with in the book you really called me out. Not deliberately, obviously, but it really, really hit
Specifically,
me. Yeah, that's right. You
Brie.
did say, Brie, listen to this. No, the way you just rationalized having a cleaner is absolutely, makes complete sense to me. And you did say that we are pretty good at rationalizing discretionary spending.
Yes.
And it was very, yeah, as I say, it was a real wake up call to me that the amount of things that sort of maybe need to be cut, I am pretty good at talking myself around to rationalize,
To justify why they.
justify, and I can pretty well link it to my values. And if I had to tell somebody, they would think, yeah, Brie, that actually makes a lot of sense. I think you should keep that. So it was just it was a little bit of a wake up call of just how clever the stories that I tell myself can be. And so I love the idea that I could just put some of the things that I'm looking to cut on a B budget and keep them at the top of the list, because I can be really mindful and then hopefully intentional, so that when I'm feeling a bit stretched, I know that this is not permanent, that one day I'll have those things again.
Yeah, that's right. And one of the tips that I talk to clients about as well is like a toolkit, because some people really resonate with a 24-hour hold. Click to cart, but you're not allowed to buy it. Some that works for.
Mm,
It's about finding what works for you. So one of the things that I personally like is I'll cut expenses but rotate them. So it's not me going no Netflix forever or no clothes shopping forever. It's right for this 2 or 3 months. That expense is gone. It's not forever. It's just coming back in. And the good thing about that is you can be sneaky with it around your social calendar. So if it's not, I'm not buying any new clothes. Well, you're not going to do it when you've got like a wedding or an event coming up. You can be a little bit strategic. So it might be takeaways gone for this month. You're not saying you're never going to buy a takeaway again. You're
mm.
just picking a different thing. And it kind of feels a bit more like a game. You can get the kids involved. You can get your partner involved.
And
So
I,
yeah,
I would
just find
imagine
what works.
I really like those, and I really think that there's a bit of a dopamine hit when you get to the end of the month and you achieved it. There was no takeaway or there was no new clothes bought, and you might see some extra money in your account, and it's sort of like some positive feedback, like, yeah, you did that. So
Yes,
as you
that
say, it's
you
almost
can do
gamified.
this.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Now, Gemma, you don't subscribe to a particular budget strategy, and in your book, you reference many, which I know I really appreciated. But if someone listening did want to, on payday, steward their money or give it a job, what might you suggest?
Yeah, so I wanted to put in the book all the different ways that you can do it because people need to find what works for them. I
Mm,
find that when people think they're bad with money, it's because they've tried something they've read in a book or they've heard their friends do, they've heard on a podcast, and then it hasn't worked for them, and they go, "Oh, well, I'm just bad with money. I won't do it again." So I
mm,
wanted to highlight all of the options. But honestly, like I want most people to do what's called a $0 budget. And it's
okay.
where every dollar, all the money has a job. And when I say every dollar, people think, oh, is she going $6 a week on coffees and $5.50 on a newspaper? Like, I'm not. What I mean by that is you write down all of your expenses and you've got, all rates, rego, all the things that come up in the year that you put a little
Mhm.
bit of money away each pay for. And maybe you just give yourself a buffer. So I've got a separate bank account for discretionary money and it tops up every week. I get paid monthly, but my brain doesn't even think about what day I get paid because there's a hub account and it just drip feeds me my weekly allowance each week. So I get paid weekly in my
Oh,
brain. I only ever have to
interesting.
think 7 days ahead of my discretionary money, not I've got a month's worth of discretionary money, but I'm going out for dinner with the girls and then I wanted to do this with the kids. It's 7 days,
Mm,
just refreshes. Um, but I'm not calculating what all that is. It's just a lump sum of money. So say it's $200. For you, it might be 100, it might be 500, whatever it is. But that money has a job and it's for me to guilt-free spend on whatever I want.
mm,
That's its job. So you don't have to allocate every dollar. You just go, that's that job. The bills money is this amount, and that's roughly what works out to be for this. And then my investments are this amount. So I think every dollar in that sense should have a job. And what it means is if you write all that down and you've got a little bit more money, it's like income, than those expenses, then what you would do is you would give that surplus a job, not just let it sit there or not know where it goes. Is it going to debt? Is it going to a holiday account? Are you putting some money into investments, or do you just want more discretionary to spend? Are you adding a cleaner or something that was on your list? So when I say every dollar gets a job, it just means that your income and your expenses net off to zero once you've done your savings, your debt, and all those things. I think that works for most people. It gives you lots of clarity. You don't necessarily have to track every dollar. I definitely don't. Um, I look at problem areas and I know what they are. They're me online
Mm,
shopping and things. So that might be what I look at every 3 months to how much I've spent in that category. Not
mm,
everything, just the ones that I'm
mm,
a bit worried about.
mm-hmm,
But the most important thing with your budget is one, don't think budget and the word ick together. I know budget is just a plan for your money.
mm,
It
mm-hmm,
doesn't have to be restrictive. What is restrictive about our budgets is that life is expensive, and for a lot of us, it's the expenses in there, not the actual system of a budget. So we don't want to hate
mm,
on a budget. A budget is
yes.
a plan for our money, but you need the system to support that budget. You could have the
Mm-hmm,
best spreadsheet, but if you don't have your bank accounts set up right, different buckets that hold different money, systems that keep you on track, then there's no point even having the budget. You need to then have this system. So for me, getting paid weekly, discretionary money refreshing in there, a bills account totally separate that I don't have a card for, that's my rates, my insurances and things. My savings are completely separate to what I can access. So that's my system that keeps me on track. So you need to work out what your system is.
I love that idea. So you get paid monthly, and then do you have a transfer set up that it comes
Yep.
into your spending or your everyday spending account once a week?
Yep. And I do it on a Friday because that's when the fun generally starts. So you can pick any day of the week. It's your banking, it's your automation. And maybe you'll try it and you'll go, no, that didn't work for me. But you just keep tweaking it until it works. I've been changing and perfecting this for so long. And then in different phases of my life, like how I manage it now is very different to 3 years ago. You just
Mm,
keep tweaking it. But yeah, so I have my hub account that I call that my pay goes into, and then that feeds into a bills account that just is sitting money aside. So it's a payment every month that works out to be my annual bills. So it's always
hmm
just kind of going up and going down, and I just leave it. And then I've got that discretionary. And for a lot of my clients that I help with their cash flow, we've actually recently, over the last year or so, set up a separate account, which is food and fuel. The reason we've got this separate one, and that refreshes every week as well, so that they don't
hmm
have to think, oh, how long is this money going to last me? But the
Mm,
reason we put that in a separate bank account for a lot of people and why that's working is these are two areas that we're constantly overspending right now
yeah,
because we
yes.
can't control the prices around them. So if you have that in your everyday account where your discretionary money is where your bills are. If you go over $20, $10 here, $50, you won't necessarily know. It's fine. It's being paid for because this is a big pool of money. But then you go to pay your rates or your rego or something later and you go, why don't I have money? I've been putting away
Mm,
all year for it. It's
mm,
because these little variable expenses have just been eating away at that. So
creeping
if there
up.
is an area there that is variable, you want to isolate that and put it into a separate bank account. I
Oh,
think that
that's
works
really
for a lot
helpful.
of us.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna set that up today. Where does the leftover money appear then in the hub account?
Yeah, so you would usually know what's going to be left over in the hub, but the hub for me has money sitting there all month because remember it's drip feeding. So
Yes,
it's drip feeding it. So I couldn't look at the hub and go, "Oh, there's money in there. I'm going to spend that," because it has a
it's
job.
coming
It's
out. Yeah.
waiting. Yeah, so I can't touch any of that. So that's where the $0 comes in that I go, well, I know on payday there was $100 spare, so I'm going to take that out of the hub and put it somewhere. So
Right.
I'm
So,
very big on automation. So on
mhm,
the hub day, once the hub gets filled by the monthly pay,
mhm.
it will feed the bills account. Everything else sitting in there is just drip feeding the discretionary. Might have a little buffer in there, but if there was money I knew that was left over, that's going somewhere. It's going
Right.
to the holiday account. It's going to debt. So really, the only thing that's sitting in the hub is my drip feed.
Mm,
So I can't dip into it because that means then 1 week there's not going to be enough money there.
yeah. Oh, that's really helpful.
Yeah, but
The
that works for me. That works for a lot of my clients. But maybe it's I've got clients that I've gone through, how that works, and they go, actually, I think I only need two accounts. I've got clients that need six.
mm,
But the biggest thing that we need is transparency. We need to be able to quickly look at our banking and go, hey, that money's got a job. I can't touch it. That creates discipline for us. That money is mine. I can touch that. I think that for a lot of people works, but you just find what works with you for you, and you just keep tweaking it until it just feels like it runs like clockwork. And the goal is to forget it's payday. Who cares when pay's
wow.
coming in? because money is just automated.
It's
Now
always
that
there
is,
because you've got a zero. Every
you got a
dollar
system,
has got a
yeah.
system and a job. Yep.
Yeah, so it's a lot easier when you have a regular pay. Obviously, like if you are
Mm, like
on like a
freelancing or
casual, yeah.
yeah.
So that's a little bit more tricky. And I talk to people about, can we try to set that up on your bare minimum, what you know is always coming in, and then do you do a manual part of that where you have, I call it the waterfall budget, where it's like, all right, so once all these are covered, what are the next things? And money trickles down to the next
Mm,
things. And it might
mm.
be that your holiday account is the last thing on there. And some months it doesn't actually get trickled to because
Any
there
at
wasn't
all.
enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's
Okay.
kind of where I talk to people about, yeah, self-employed or irregular income is having a kind of like a priority list that the money flows down to.
Yeah, that's helpful. The bills account, is that then automated with like BPay and that sort of thing so that all your bills know to be paid straight out of that? So your
Yeah,
utilities and rates and things?
yeah, some of them are direct debits. So subscriptions and things are direct debits from there. Some I'll pay manually when a bill and things come in. So my electricity and things direct debit from them. If you are going to have direct debits, you do want to still make sure that you're checking on those things because loyalty does not pay in
Yeah.
banking and utilities. So it
Mm.
might be, your car insurance. Maybe you do have it on automatic renew because it was cheaper. You know how they give you like discounts and
Yeah.
things, but
Yep.
maybe you set a reminder for the month before it's due to do a shop around or
To
something.
check.
So
Yeah.
if you're going to automate things, you want to have reminders in your calendar of, hey, I'm actually just going to check on that bill. Yeah, health insurance, I'm going to check on that. So you don't have to do
Mm.
it all the time. You just want to make sure that you're not just letting things go. So yeah, if you're like me and you need things written down, that might just be a calendar reminder. But if you
Yeah.
can
Set a
automate
meeting with
things,
yourself.
great.
Yep. Yeah. Love
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Gemma, it's really easy and often essential in times of crisis to focus on what's right in front of us. But there is always kind of this desire to project our minds forward in terms of future security, our future selves. What are some things that we can do now for the safety of our tomorrow selves for us and for our loved ones?
Yes. So there are the foundations that we need to get right. Managing your cash flow, having an emergency buffer, all those things are today jobs, but they do help us in the future, right? Um, but where I want to focus, because it's my passion and specialty, and I think anyone will talk to you about the emergency funds and stuff, is superannuation.
Mm,
So superannuation is so critical, and when I talk, and it's the cornerstone of retirement in Australia. And for most of us, 12% of our pay is being swiped and taken into super. And a lot of people I find don't recognize it as their money. But the earlier that you understand it and you pay attention to it, it might not necessarily mean adding more to it, but, looking at your investments, making sure your address is up to date, making sure your contributions are going in, just treating it like your money is a game changer for
mhm.
how that will support you in retirement. And then it also means it's not such as like a steep learning curve when you hit 50 or 55 and go, oh, it's 5, 10 years away. I better start
Better do
learning about
something about
super.
that. Mm,
Yeah, like the earlier that you start treating it as your money is really, really important. And if you've got an industry fund, for example, you might have a free financial planning appointment every single year that you could be talking to the advisor about learning more about it. But I think that is a game changer for our future. And so many times people go, "Oh, I'll deal with that like later," or future me be eating beans and toast. So I've just turned 40. I still feel like the 20-year-old version of myself, just with more money, so I can be more irresponsible. Like, I don't think 60-year-old Gemma is going to be
no.
too far off what I like doing now. Travel, eating out. And I just think, we always say, I wish I had started earlier. Like, I wish I had bought
Mm,
a property at 20.
mm,
I wish I started investing at 20. So future me is going to be very thankful that this version of me actually cared enough
mm.
to do something. So that's my rant about super. We need to care and understand it. It's crucial. But the other thing that I'll say is you need to put your own oxygen mask on first. So many clients are wanting to save and invest for their kids. They're wanting to
Mm,
help their parents or they're feeling a
mm,
responsibility to.
Mm-hmm.
Put your own oxygen mask on first. Sort out yourself. Make sure you're okay. That's the best thing that you can do for your family.
Yeah, that's really powerful. The thing about I love the reframe around start seeing super as your money because it is your money. Because
Yeah.
even that simple sentence, we would look at our bank accounts and know that's our money. Like we're working
Hmm.
hard for that money. So we are stewarding that money in the way that we want it to suit us. And yet if we saw super as also our money, then we would make sure that our growth strategy is suiting us and that we are
Yes.
contributing as much as we feel comfortable with and that we know where it's going. And, I think
Yeah.
even just that one sentence, I am quite interested in super and I sort of have been for the last sort of 5 years. I love sort of seeing it grow and I love, tinkering with it. And I'm lucky enough to have an industry fund where I do, have the free support of a financial advisor, etc. But even just that one sentence, it's your money, so start treating it like that is so powerful. And yeah, the oxygen mask. I mean, we know about that with our health and our fitness. We need to know about that with our money as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. I find so many people are like, oh, I want to learn about investing. I want to be an investor. And I'm like, do you have super?
you
You're
are.
already an
Yeah,
investor. Yeah.
yeah,
It's the
yeah.
biggest investment fund you'll probably have. It's not the government's money. It wasn't free money from work. It is your money. It's just protected from our current selves for our future selves. So yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
big
And
fan.
I think, yeah, same. And I think letting people, so people who are frightened of investing or, anti the share market or, feel overwhelmed by that whole idea, it is really kind of empowering to say you're already an investor, actually. If you were to
Yeah.
just go and look at the percentages in your super, and where that money's going and where your super's choosing to invest it on your behalf. And you can have some say over that if you want to. And yeah, once you've sort of seen that you're already doing it, it's kind of you that one step,
Yeah.
further than you
Yep.
thought you were. Yeah,
That's exactly right.
that's really helpful. Now, Gemma, you've been so generous with your time. As I said, I've just finished the Money Reset, loved it, will recommend it widely. But what are you working on now, and how can the Habit Nerd listeners engage with you and your excellent work?
Yes, so I've got, what do they say? Fingers in many pies or whatever.
Mm.
So I do the podcast, which is the Australian Finance Podcast. I'm best contactable, or like most of my content, I'm a millennial, so it's Instagram. I don't
Hmm.
understand TikTok. I don't
Yeah,
want any bar of it. I
it's
don't
all
want to learn
right.
more new things.
Stay in your lane. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Stay in
So
your lane.
Instagram is where I hang out, and it's gemmamitchell.finance.
Hmm.
Or I have a website, gemmamitchell.com.au. But I said that I would never write another book after the money reset. And I think that lasts about four months. So I am writing the next book. That's with the same publisher, Wiley, and it's on super and retirement. And then if that one goes well, I have committed to one again next year. So I have done a total
Fantastic.
backflip that I said I would never write another book. But here I am.
It's like childbirth. You forget pretty quickly, but also,
Yes.
you need to hear from people like me and from my audience and hopefully from lots of people that as much as your hard work is, as you say, you'd never wanted to do it again, it's having an enormous impact. And,
I think that's
just
what it
that.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah, like once it was out in the world and seeing how it impacts people's lives, and people quote stuff from it or pages, they talk about their favorite page, and
mm,
um, yeah, and I like it is I think my skill is making concepts really easy to understand and
I
kind of taking
agree.
out that yeah. So I yeah, I think I always just thought, up until recently, I just thought I had to be really polished or, be a certain way. And I put so much pressure on myself to be something else. And then when I just leaned into, no, this is how I talk, this is how I explain stuff, I'm a bit of a bogan. And then having the book out there, and that actually really resonated with people. And so now I think I've just leaned into, yeah, this is me. We all like, what do they say? Water finds its own level. So
That's
you might go on
right.
Instagram and find somebody else that you gel with a lot more. You
Mm,
might gel with me. I just kind of go, oh, well, I think I've got a skill here, so I'll do it again.
you
Tear my hair out
absolutely.
writing the next the next book.
Yeah, and then we'll say thank you, Gemma, for tearing your hair out. There's and I think that's just a really powerful reminder for all of us that particularly if you do have an online presence like you do, Gemma, it's, and you say, you didn't feel you're polished enough or you're a bit of a bogan, etc. But you need to be yourself, because then the people who need you can find you, so when
The
you're
right
trying to
people
be
find
something
you.
else, that's right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I've found you, and I'm hoping that this interview and all your other work means that lots of other people will find you and your excellent work as well. That was
Thank you.
hugely helpful, and I would, just want you to know that you are so practical, and, particularly as women, finance can be a bit of a black hole of knowledge and something that, we steer away from. But your book and your work and the AFP finance, the podcast is pretty user friendly, really kind of actionable and practical, and, as you say, pragmatic. So thank you for your time. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. And I can't wait for this episode to land in my listeners' ears, because it's going to give them so much gold.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I learn a lot from your podcast as well, because habits is something, I work a lot in, but I know that I need to improve as well. So thank you for the work that you do. But this was
Oh,
really
thank you.
fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. So it's such a pleasure to have met. All right, take care. Thank you, Gemma. Thanks for being here for another episode of the Habit Nerd Podcast. I am so grateful for your time. If you enjoyed it or gained a fresh perspective, please share it with a friend, or maybe you feel like giving it a 5-star review, which will take you less than 30 seconds. I do love all of my habit nerds, and I see you showing up every day as your wonderful selves. So until next time, take care.